Protein of the most unlikely organism. Interesting. Interesante. What's up, Tom Kinshaw? How you doing? I'm gonna wait for a few more people to show up. Nathaniel Johnson, Manuel Alejandro. Hello, hello everyone. That's weird. It's doing that. Manuel Alejandro, how are you? Hola. NASA Chad. That's a great handle. Mike Paul 3. Hello everyone. IB Mystic. I'm glad to hear that. So, to all the newcomers, if you're not familiar with this channel, it usually revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. And we meet here on the daily to discuss all kinds of fun topics like science, religion, spirituality, philosophy, whatever comes to mind. We will eventually move into a more structured program, I believe, but at the moment we're still just kind of going with the flow, and usually good topics come on. Yesterday we were discussing philosophy, the day before we were discussing physics. If there's any interesting news, we'll discuss these. Daisy May. All right. Also, anybody who joined and you think you're going to stick around and you want to help make the chat a little more lively, exactly. If you give it a few likes just so we can invigorate the chat, that would be amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. You read my mind. See, we have a couple of people joining on YouTube as well. Cal, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Be positive. Patrick. By the way, Cal, yeah, you should definitely email me so I can put you on all the people that are interested in Southern California for the physical meetups. Please email me. I know you're already on the list and everything, but if you email me, it's going to be easier for me to actually make a whole official list and then also put people on the mailing list so they can know about updates and things like that. John Cox, how are you? Polyfoci, right? Did I pronounce it right? Good to see you. DM'd you, but yeah, I know you DM'd me. I responded. Absolutely. I got you down. Just I realized that through email, it's going to be much easier. Again, anybody who wants to show up for physical meetups, I'm going to be putting out the message soon. You can email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Once again, it's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. And exactly, easier to track. Thank you for always being on board. I appreciate that. I love the TikTok is saying they're notifying viewers that I'm live. Isn't it automatic? Shouldn't be automatic. I'm glad you're still going strong. Thank you, Oscar Rydberg. Rydberg, I would assume. Anthony, Ben. Were you joining on a regular basis, Oscar? Oh yeah, I do remember your profile picture. Good to see you. Okay, yesterday we had a little bit of a glitch. The system was, I think, a little out. I was a little out, and an unexplained weird glitch in the brain, and I just couldn't really focus properly. I don't know what was going on, but we're back strong today. Maybe it is something about, one of these big transitional stages or whatever that means. So what should we chat about today? We had physics in the last few days. We had philosophy. I was trying to search for any kind of new potential discoveries that can be fun to talk about. Couldn't really find anything that really grabbed my attention. I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to do bulk research on weekends, and then have some material for the entire week. Let's see, I'm looking through some things right now. Microscopic machine. If you guys have any interesting things you specifically want to dive into, I would love to oblige. In the meanwhile, I'm going to be looking for a couple of things. Again, to all the newcomers, this channel mostly revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. If you're a newcomer and you're not familiar, you can ask me in the comments, and I will tell you what we're talking about here. But if you're a regular, I'm not going to have to repeat all of that. So in the meanwhile, know that we're meeting here on the daily to discuss science, philosophy, spirituality, religion, and whatnot. Let's see. Time to time, it's always late, unfortunately. 6 now. Oh, yeah. Wait, remind me where you are? That means some other side of the planet. But where exactly? Do you think phase transitions are relevant to consciousness? Absolutely. Polyfoci with a great leading question. Thank you for that. Danny, I watched The Matrix a long time ago. That is wonderful. You're saying this to the effect of. Also, you have a incredible handle. Wake up, you are dreaming. That is true. To your question, Sweden. I've never been to Sweden, but I like Swedes. I actually used to date a Swedish girl, and I always wanted to go visit. I should at some point. Sweden looks incredible. The business. We haven't seen you in a while. Polyfoci, I did not forget about your question. That's a great question. We talked about it the other day, but absolutely phase transition is relevant to consciousness, in my opinion. I think that consciousness in some way is a phase transition of some informational pattern. And that might actually be a great ah la la. Oh la la. Oh, I see. Oh la la. That's really funny. Or maybe in all I remember is Joel Skardé, obviously, and Skoll, for the obvious reasons. Not necessarily in that order. Let's see. Oh, eventually, my ADHD will land slightly. So the question was, do you think phase transitions are relevant to consciousness? And my answer is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I definitely think that consciousness is some form of a phase transition of information. If you guys are familiar with Max Tegmark, that would essentially be his hypothesis about consciousness. I think he's close to, he's right on the money there. He does make the further case that ultimately everything at bottom is mathematics, which sounds like a strange case, and I certainly believe that is a strange case to make. But again, it's kind of difficult to try and negate, or not negate, but try and pass criticism on thoughts that were uttered by somebody who's that smart. But then again, we do it all the time, right? So Max Tegmark is a known physicist from MIT. His biggest forte is mathematics. He's a theoretical physicist. And he wrote a book called The Mathematical Universe, I think it was called. And in it, he makes a strong case for, he obviously breaks down all the different kinds of multiverses, type 1, type 2, type 3. I think there's 4 types that he outlines, 3 main ones. And the last conclusion is that ultimately everything in the bottom is mathematics. Now, on the surface of it, it just sounds like he's making a kind of a metaphysical, vague claim, and it's not really clear what he means by that. Now, if he means that ultimately everything at bottom is mathematical relationships, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. However, the fact that consciousness is possible in this matrix of existence tells me that that must be the central part of the story, because what else can possibly matter, right? He makes the stronger claim. He says, no, he doesn't mean it metaphorically or just talks about the kind of like the mathematical relationships. He's saying that whatever mathematics is at bottom, that is what the world is ultimately what it is. And that's why the effectiveness, the what's called the what's the word I'm looking for? Forget the word right now. It doesn't matter. But the effectiveness of mathematics, unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics, as it was dubbed. The reason for it is because ultimately the world is mathematics, and minds are just of mathematics. That's why it's almost like we are on the surface of very deep waters, and the more we become conscious of our environment, the more we become conscious of mathematical regularities, and ultimately it goes all the way to the bottom. And in the case of the phase transitions, to all the listeners who don't know, phase transition is simply the same as when when H2O molecules go through the different states, right? From gas to liquid to solid. These would be phase transitions of matter. In this particular case, a particular molecule. But phase transitions can be of anything. And what it loosely defined phase transition is essentially a state in which a certain aggregation of a function or a quantity of something or a process of some sort, when it reaches a certain level, it goes through a breaking point and it changes in quality. And the quality of the entire thing changes. So I do think the consciousness is some phase transition of information, and it would actually be interesting to see if there are any overlaps between integrated information theory of Robert Koch. No, not Robert. What's his name? It is Koch, but forget his first name. Giulio Tononi and something Koch. I forget his name. But they basically came up with something called integrated information theory, in which they found a mathematical framework to describe how networks can potentially gain consciousness. And it's not just through complexity, but a specific arrangement of combination of certain level of complexity coupled with a particular type of backpropagation. And if you can allow information to flow in a particular way that is complex enough and at the same time has a certain kind of backpropagation, it should allow for this regularity they called phi that should be associated with what we would call awareness, what we would call consciousness. And what's interesting about their frame or model is that they used it to try and predict something which was unheard of before. I don't think it collapses the hard problem of consciousness, but I do think that they're onto something from a technical standpoint because of this ability to measure something. What they tried to measure was they tried to use their model or theory to predict whether they can see if people are in vegetative state or are they in a coma, which are different in the sense of just the lights are on or off. So if somebody is in a vegetative state, the body is alive, but no one's home. Literally, there's no brain activity at all. But in a coma, there's brain activity. The person is aware in some kind of an inside world in which I completely messed it up. It's completely the other way around. Vegetative state means that you're just like locked in syndrome. You're fully aware and you just can't move any muscle of the body, which is horrific. And the other thing is a coma, in which basically you see really no one's home, or at least there's no awareness. And they managed to predict who is who, and they took it from a subset of cases in which they knew ultimately there is an answer, but they wanted to see if they can use the mathematical framework to predict if they could see who is who, and they managed to do that to some degree, which was very interesting. All of that is a very long-winded way of saying I definitely think that whatever phi represents in the integrated information theory is some kind of a sign of this phase transition happening in an informational system. So that is a great opening question. It's all you need, brother. Thank you, Oscar. Life 3.0. I haven't read that one yet. Have you read it? Is it good, the business? Reality isn't real. Depending on what you mean reality. Also, I don't think there's anything that is not real. That's my take on it. The point, I think that the only definition the word real can take and this is obviously debatable, but it's anything that exists. So if the only thing that exists is consciousness, that is real. If the world exists in it on its own side and there's some consciousness combined with it, then that is real. But whatever exists, or any kind of experience you can possibly have, it exists, it's real. So even if you just have a thought, to say it's just a thought, it's not real, it's, I think, confusing the terms. If you thought of it, it exists in the world in some form, therefore it's real. But I'm sure it was just a throwaway comment, so it wasn't intended in that serious of a tone. So it's relations all the way down without relata. I think that I want to say that's what he means, because that's the only way I can make sense of what he's saying. But I'm not sure he would agree. I remember listening to him on some podcasts, and also I read the book. It seems like he's making a stronger claim than that, and he kind of insists that it's not just the relationships, but what mathematics is. I'm not really sure what the difference would be, because if we means the symbols, then obviously that's not it, right? The language of mathematics is just a way to denote what we mean, like what we're pointing to. So I would say that what you just said must be what he means, but it feels to me like he would disagree. I guess you would have to read the book to see what you think of that. So does he believe that consciousness itself is mathematics? Ultimately, he believes that mathematics is at the bottom of everything. On top of that is a computation, which is a form of aggregating information, is possible, which is all based on mathematics, obviously. And then on top of that, you have informational flux. And when you get informational flux in some particular arrangement, it gives you consciousness. I think that's the best way to summarize his belief. Listen to mathematicians taking the dose and describing math as they go deeper, geometric math. Are you talking about Ralph Abraham in particular, Oscar? He was good friends with Terence McKenna. Their chats are very, very interesting. What's up, Amicuri? Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your handle correctly. Apologies. Hello. What is the topic this evening, my friend? Thank you for joining, first of all. We just kind of started spitballing with whether phase transitions have anything to do with consciousness, and my assertion was that it does, that consciousness is essentially some kind of a phase transition in informational patterns. And now we're talking about Max Tegmark and his theories of mathematics are at the bottom of everything. This was a younger dude, not him, but he is also great. Interesting. I wonder who you're talking about. Are you talking about the molecule? Let's see. Mathematicians talking about his. Let's see if I can find anything. We have. If I Google that, so we have Andres Gomez. We have Andrew Gallimore, obviously. I wonder who you're talking about. That would be interesting to see. If you can find it, that would be super awesome. Yeah. So, let me go back just because I want to make sure. How are you, man? Killing it. Good to see you, brother. Really good to see you. Yeah, that would be amazing. By the way, where in Sweden? Because I know there's a big difference between the north and the south. Is it one of the fun facts about Sweden that for a long time I thought it was just something that people were making up, and then I was corrected on that point by Swedes, is that it is actually true that in the north, for yes, they say, which is just absurd. It's absurd, Oscar. You have to admit that. Because I always say, what if you're trying to put an intonation on it, right? Like, what if you're trying to cajole an agreement? Like, he was like, yeah. So what do? You have to tilt your head like a dog. You go. Yeah, they special beam. It's really funny when there's a friendly rivalry or like this kind of like, it's that crazy cousin relationship between people in the same country. I always find it to be adorable because for people outside of the country, everything is kind of the same. So for us, this is just kind of like family feud that is entertaining to watch. So do we need Tagmar to see face transitions as relevant? I mean, no, but I lost the connection. Oh, thank you for the specific clarification point. No, I was thinking about it in terms of that he believes that consciousness is some kind of an arrangement of informational patterns. So he definitely would say that consciousness is some kind of a phase transition inside of information. So definitely he's relevant to the conversation. And I only mentioned integrated information theory because they're the only game in town that I'm familiar with that gives some technical measurement unit, phi, to try and engage with this kind of hypothesis. So these are the two that I thought about because of that. But thank you for asking for clarification. And our only Tommy Kinetic is saying, and are only certain individuals destined to modify, fix the source code? I don't know. I honestly don't believe that the system. I think that the system would be democratic. Now, I don't have a way to know that, of course, but I would assume that just like in everything, one of the beauties of science is that it's completely democratic. It's the one domain where it doesn't matter who you are, makes no difference. You either understand something or you don't. You can either, and if you understand it, you can probably do something with it. And in that sense, it's completely democratic. And I would assume that the code would be the same. Uh, Obviously, if there are certain regulations that are imposed by the simulators, then you would have the case that you're describing. But I would like to believe that it's completely democratic. Same with our neighbors, Denmark, Norway, Finland. Always that sibling feeling. Yeah. I've been to Norway and in the winter. So I definitely experienced Norway for what it is. It's beautiful. He said there's more about the console you get on Dimitri when you vids. Thank you, Renee. Yeah, to be honest with you guys, I've been kind of slacking on working on all the videos that are in the pipeline. I've had a lot of very eventful last few months, and with kind of like trying to focus on a documentary. Those are just excuses, obviously, but that's the truth. They're all in the pipeline. They're all in the works. I'm trying to feel what would be the right kind of organically time to release all of these. And when I don't feel a strong push to talk about them, I feel like I'm. I feel like I'm. It feels too mechanical. It doesn't feel like it flows, and I like to create out of this place that flows. No, maybe it's just because of my psychology at the moment. It's going through something, and maybe that's why I don't feel the push. But thank you for the question. I definitely know that people are been telling me that they've been waiting for it. Relax, Cosmo. So the fact that you're asking is actually playing a role in encouraging me to keep working on them. So might actually start diving back into what I need to release. I also have another uh, part of the conversation with Lev Levitin, which I'm going to release probably in a week. That I met with him in a coffee place, and that was a little bit of more of a serious conversation about how he sees academia and all that. But I figured I'll release it because who knows? Maybe some people find it interesting. I definitely did. And then I will keep working on the more creative videos. If all iterations of code exist, there's no need to correct it. If I understand your comment correctly, that would be true. Well, so if the code codes for infinite variety, then all the mistakes and all the error corrections would be encapsulated in it. But if you're using it as almost like the anthropic principle, the anthropic argument, which is, if everything exists, then you're always going to have some parts of everything that exists that work and the majority of it won't, but you will only find yourselves in the places where the code works. Yeah, there's something very not neat about the anthropic argument in general. Doesn't matter if it's from the perspective of physics or computation, doesn't matter for me. But of course, it can be true. It cannot be refuted. That's, I guess, the point. What is it? I'm from Germany. Followed instruction, and I've seen the code, bro. Why is this shit not on the news? that is a great. I'm gonna, if you want me to blur your handle, I will. But I'm definitely using this quote in the film. So actually, if you DM me, Renee, and tell me if you're okay with me using the quote with your handle, I will use it in the film. If you're not, if you won't DM me, then I can't know if you're okay with it. I'm gonna have to blur your handle. But this is a great, this is a great message. Why it's not on the news? Well, there's many reasons. One of them is that it's going to take a lot more to convince entire organizations that something as big as going on. And also, I think there's some resistance of this collective subconscious. We're not, some portions of humanity are not ready yet, but it's okay. Message is out there. So when the time is right, it will bloom. What if the code is observable but not changeable? It's most likely the case if you ask me. Or if it's changeable, because this code that is coding for what seems to be the objective part of reality, and again, I always add this caveat, but it's important to reiterate, I think. Even if you believe that everything is mind, whatever this code is, that code, this code, is coding for an insistent part of the mind. In other words, the walls inside of the mind that don't seem to be as malleable as, I feel like having a drink or I feel like having some food. Like, it's not as flexible. So it for all intents and purposes, it's okay to call it the objective part of reality. So if it codes for the objective part of reality, whatever reality is at bottom, then changing it will require a much more robust intervention of the physical flavor. So this is why I'm trying to figure out if maybe powerful magnets can change the content of the code to show us that, this is huge. Like, so the code is already a huge thing, but if I can also induce an observable and repeatable change to the code that everybody can agree on, that's, I mean, at that point, this is fast track to labs, like, for sure. And actually, even then, I won't be surprised if people are not as responding as fast. But I feel like then, at that point, it's really the responsibility is on scientists to respond to that properly. Imagine, like, putting a very powerful magnet around a laser diode, and you put it and you turn it on, and three people in the room and they're seeing the code. You turn it on, and all of a sudden there's a concrete, visible change to what the code is doing, or even the digits flip or something. That is huge, because that will also tell you what kind of behavior of the code responsible for magnetism, let's say, because it's corresponding to that interaction. So yeah, this would be huge, and I really think that this is the thing that will make the difference. The hyperbolic geometry of the molecule experiences. Oh, that's the name of the video. Thank you so much. Saving it. And I want to see who's on there. So let me do that real quick. The hyperbolic. I feel like that is Andres Gomez. Bolic. Is that the one he gave in? Let me see. Geometry of. Is that the one he gave in Harvard? Let's see. Yep. Wait. Yeah. Andres Gomez. So I know Andres. He's one of the first people that I contacted, actually. He's an interesting fella because he's extremely smart. His background is in mathematics. He used to compete. He's a scientist. He's studying consciousness, and he's big on talking about the molecule. The thing, hey, Cosmo, relax, bud. The thing with him is that in the beginning, and especially in the video that you just mentioned, everybody can go look it up. He essentially, what he does is that he uses his mathematical skills to break the space of the molecule. And what I mean by the space of the molecule is, kind of like the tapestry of what people are experiencing. And he equates it to an actual fabric. And then he asks the question from a topological perspective, geometrical topological perspective, how much energy would you need in order to curve and what's up, bud? How much energy would you need in order to create hyperbolic surfaces? So how much energy do you need to fold something to make it look like this, and then like that, and like that, and like that, and then he divides it to, I think, 7 levels or something like that. And what he discovered is that if you map on the mathematics, you discover that it corresponds almost exactly to the amount of molecule in your system. And then you can equate the amount of molecule to the amount of energy that gives your brain to actually fold these spaces into these complex forms. In this video, at least, it seems that Andres is trying to take the physicalist perspective, even though I know he's not a physicalist, and basically maybe steelman the argument that whatever the molecule is doing is an arising property of the mind. It's in your head, so to speak, and not really that it's a higher space that exists on its own side. From my interaction with Andres since my personal conversations with him, I don't think that that's what he actually believes. But I think that as any good scientist, he wanted to be able to steelman the other side of the argument, so he has a firmer ground to stand on. And I think that's a smart thing to do. But it's a very interesting. Highly recommend this video. Thank you for sharing. Um, let's see. Interesting question. It's weird that it's code, which means it's open to be processed. That is actually a really good point. That the fact that it's being understood by us to be some kind of a coherent thing tells us that it's open to be processed. That's a great way of defining it. I'm okay with everything. Camp, whatever, bro. I'll help. Really well. I'm glad. If you are willing to send me I guess a trip report, or again, it doesn't have to have your name attached to it, depending on how much exposure you're willing to take. Sounds like you're cool, but up to you. If you can email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com, lasersimulationx@gmail.com. I respond to all my emails, and maybe we can have a little bit of a back and forth about your experience, and maybe we can even talk on Zoom, and I can ask you a few questions about your experience. It will be very valuable for the film as well. So that door is open for you. If the code is code for objective reality, then what's processing the visual aspects of the code scene? Spoken like a true software developer, Cal. That is a great question. What's processing the aspect of the code scene? I think it's the meaning producing machinery in the brain, and my assumption would be that there's some objective part of the code that when a being reaches a certain level of awareness that includes understanding of certain things about the world, because in order to build a laser you have to have certain understandings about the world. Then if you built an ability to produce coherent light, if you project coherent light, if you build the ability to distill the molecule, which is another scientific breakthrough, right? So it means you understand something about chemistry, you understand something about physics, you understand some basic thing about the brain, and you've noticed that when you do this thing, all of a sudden the qualia changes to a degree that is different than anything else you've ever done. When you have all of these things aligned, you can start playing with new conceptual frameworks that starts lifting you from the regular pool of types of awarenesses that you can have. And maybe the code is essentially the first element where it's like, okay, you put all these elements together. Okay, now you have access to see that something objective is happening. Now you start having this connection between objective and subjective. And this interaction, I think, will start leading us towards a greater understanding of what we really are. And I think that's kind of like the breadcrumbs that are being left. Highly speculative, but I would assume that what is processing it is the mechanism that is being left in every single, like I told you the other day, where I saw that the way that the code is built is that the matrix is built out of these like tri areas, and they're like 3 vectors pointing at each other. Wait, were they 3 or 4? I can't recall. I think it was 3. And basically they always are in this awareness of each other. So when you have a lot of them, you have more and more and more of this quality I call inness, of the being inside. And then when you have in each and every one of these little areas, I think there's the ability to perceive um, content that is kind of like a combination between what the cerebral part of an information is doing and the feeling part of information is doing, or whatever it is responsible for just like the immediate experience of the environment. And then this combination gives you the ability to read objective things in the world, like whatever is actually unfolding, and making the distinction between the things that are coding for this objective part and the things that are coding for this more subjective esoteric part that are subspaces inside the objective space, and which is still the mind of the universe, but they're more objective from the boundary, through when you're looking through the boundary. So then the code is essentially read because you have the seed of being able to perceive whatever is real. It's almost like you have a sense for what's real. Cosmo, relax, bud. He's going crazy in the kennel. Have I tried modifying it at all? Yeah, I tried all kinds of things so far. Bupkis, nothing. My next big contender is powerful magnetic fields, to see if we can actually change the quality of the code. I try to play with sound. I try to play with ideas, with feelings, all that stuff. So far, nothing. With water, refraction actually helps you to see the code in a more coherent way. But I'm not sure if it has something to do with our visual field or with the nature of the code itself. Micro and macro code hierarchy of codes. That's essentially what it is, Brendan. Thank you for that. That's a really good way of putting it. What? Let me go back up. What makes you think magnets are the key? Well, light is an electromagnetic wave, and it is essentially electricity and magnetism kind of going like this, waving in perpendicular to each other. This is why, because it's the same element. When you move a magnet up and down a coil, you can produce electric coil. You move it up and down, you can produce magnetism, and vice versa. The reason for that is because when you how do you describe this in a simple way? So it's, again, all of this is heuristic. That's not exactly what's going on, but it's almost like the full thing is electromagnetism. If you push on magnetism, you get a little bit more electricity. If you push against electricity, you get a little bit more magnetism. It's almost like one of them protrudes more outwards. Again, this is super, trying to simplify it so even the concept is kind of clear. So because light is electromagnetism, if you introduce a very powerful magnet, you should do something fundamental. You should be able to do something fundamental, like a fundamental change to whatever electromagnetism is a wave. I don't even know if it's to the wave function, but like the wave of light, at least. That coupled with, my methodology also involves kind of these very vague intuitions combined into something that is more coherent. So these I can't really outline to you because they're based on a lot of very flimsy, immediate intuitions that happen in particular moments that I learned to. Yesterday we were talking about Carl Jung. By no means am I comparing myself to that great of a mind. However, the methodology is kind of similar there, where Carl Jung allowed himself to take these intuitions, and he basically was trying to see if he can find regularities within these seemingly esoteric kind of like up there things. And he for example, he could make predictions with certain synchronicities that would happen, and that's essentially what it is. Like if I noticed that right before I discovered the laser, there were a particular kind of sets of emotions that I've had about a particular topic in science, I remember that because it was almost like a flag was planted there. And then now, when I have a similar feeling around a particular scientific thing or technical thing, I remember that flag and that feels the same. I wonder if it's related to discovering the next part. So now I obviously can't express that to any scientist as a reasonable methodology by which I arrive at my conclusions, but it is true that a lot of it comes like that. And now when I think about magnetism and when I think about bismuth, and there's a whole trajectory that I talked about why I arrived at bismuth. This flag is there. I can feel that something is afoot. I can feel, yes, yes, look there. Like that's that feeling. This is the gentleman who was able to visualize the code. Um, sorry, Mike Doobie 149. I'm not sure what you're talking about. There's over 1,000 people in the world now that replicated it. Oh, okay. I don't remember learning math. It just feels like it has always been in my head. Interesting. So, are you really good at math? Polyfoci is saying, I'm a bit worried about some of the epistemology here. Can one even do Bayesian analysis on this? Actually, I love this question. Let me try and engage with it. Let me try and take it head on. So, the reason that here, let me see if I can share this. So first, before I answer you, can you be more specific as to what you would like to run a Bayesian analysis on? What specifically? What is the probability we're trying to measure? Are you talking about the how many people see the thing, or what specifically are you talking about? All right, absolutely. Sleepers, peepers, see you around, laser man. Okay, Oscar, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Having the tech, as you're saying, implies it was meant to be found. Yeah, 100% in my opinion. Tetragons. What about them? Invisible light, spectrums, electromagnetic vibration zones. Have you seen beings, other entities in there all the time? Tommy, to your question, Tommy Kinetic, I see them all the time. Only thing makes sense to me is you are Neo from the Matrix. If yes, don't miss you. Don't miss me, bro. I won't. I won't miss you. I promise. Um, Also, yikes if that's the case. Big yikes. 1 second, everybody. Hey, Lisa. Have you ever tried to see the code in a lucid dream? I have seen the code, especially when I get tired. I see a little bit of the code in the laser, but it's vague enough for me to assume that maybe Azamun is saying, "Hey, brothers and sisters, how are you, Azamun?" Because my brain already knows it's supposed to be there. Is that my brain filling it in? Because now I know it's there. Because it's not as coherent as what you see in the molecule. Bro, that might take a minute. I'll bring it back. That's okay. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I would love to answer that question. This is a very poignant question. I love that. Thank you for that, Polyfoci. And I would love if you share here. If you want to go to YouTube to then go thoughts and leave a longer comment, or you can DM me or email me even lasersimulationx@gmail.com. 1 second, guys. I want to make sure that my puppy is not didn't eat himself alive. 1 second. He is in fact alive. That was wonderful. So let me. By the way, polyfoci, if you're still here, or polyfoci. The reason that I really like this line of questions is because it actually helps me to think about the subject more coherently myself. So it would be great if you can think of a more specific way of asking a question, so I can, so I can address it. Also, if anybody who's here and enjoying themselves, if you don't mind hitting the like button a few times, just so we get the chat going a little bit higher, that would be great. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Math feels easy, and I feel bad saying it, knowing people struggle with it, but I just understand it. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing for me. Ever since I was a little kid, it was always just these relationships were just like obvious to me. But humans weren't. And some people are geniuses with humans. And it took me a while to understand there's different kinds of intelligences in this world. Um, let's see some of these. I love the line of reasoning today. Thank you for all the likes, guys. I appreciate it. Let's try and get to over 1,000 here just to see how many people that will send our way. Having okay. And yeah, Cal, to your question, to your comment, having the tech, as you're saying, implies it meant to be found. Absolutely. Invisible light spectrums, electromagnetic and vibrations, tones, and yeah, I would actually be delighted if sound would do something, but sound literally doesn't do anything. It seems light, or at the moment at least, maybe there's a particular arrangement of sound, almost like it would be cool if it's like a melody, right? I do think that sound is involved because there were a few hints that kind of came through in that way. But I do think that a powerful enough magnetic field combined with projecting it through either bismuth or depending where you put the magnet around, so it can be around the head, the perception apparatus can be around the diode, which I would assume would be the thing that works. It might be around the medium projected through, so around the sheet of bismuth or water, whatever it might be, or it might be next to the surface itself. So there's a few things that need to be tried here. We'll see. Have you? Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for the likes. Let's see if it shoots our chat a little higher. Only thing makes sense. That might take. Oh, okay. Okay. Were you able to interact with the other beings? What do you think they are? Yeah. So I interact with them all the time. They sometimes they would just tell me things. Sometimes they would encourage me to do something. Sometimes they would just, for lack of a better term, fuck around. They just do whatever. That's why I always say this focus on the beings seems to me to be kind of missing the point. Again, I can absolutely be wrong. That's just my take. I always say it's kind of equivalent to going to New York City and asking a random person about the nature of their reality. They might know jack squat about what's going on, right? They don't necessarily have to be an expert just because they're in this other space. This is why I feel like interacting with what the space is and what are the possibilities of interaction with whatever the space is, that's much. I feel like that will be a much better time spent. But again, I'm happy that scientists are studying it to any degree, which is great. What was the question? But yeah, I was interacting with other beings. And anybody who wants to come on, I see people are like, it's showing up. Please put a description of the topic that you wanted to talk about, or you can just say, hey, I want to exchange some ideas. No problem. Just put it in the chat so I see that there's engagement there, and then I'll pull you up. My wife saw and described it without even knowing what the laser was for. It's there 100%. Wow. You have all kinds of great comments today. That definitely helps the case. The thing, and actually, it even goes as far as I told some people things that are not there, and then they came back and said, "No, I didn't see what you said, but I saw this Japanese-looking code." So even when you steer people away from that conceptually, they still see the other thing. But that's great. Yeah, man, I'm excited to hear from you, Renee. It seems to be another round dimension he can explore. We can explore, and it literally looks like you're looking through a microscope. The code is seen while still here in low dose. Yeah, Danny has talked about the other side, though. Didn't you folks never took Dimitri? Oh, there was a whole discussion here. Go opener. Okay, let's see. Of course, but without knowing what about the experiment. Okay, I don't. Let's see. I don't to go to college psychology to understand other people. I don't even think psychology would help you. Had to go to that. Let me see what we have on YouTube. And she said it was like seeing the engine of existence running. Basically, that's a very accurate description. 1K, like a thank you guys. 2K now. I'm always encouraged to bring more people to them. Appreciate it, man. You're the one. Wait, are you the only one liking that? Let's see what we have here. Danny on YouTube is saying, do not be sure about sound not achieving anything. No, I'm not saying sound will not achieve anything. I'm saying so far it did not achieve anything. I absolutely think that sound is involved, Danny. Um, or Danny, how do you pronounce it? But in any case, no, I absolutely think sound is involved. I just don't know how, because so far there was no results. Azamun is saying, is Dan reading YouTube chat or is the mainstream somewhere else? Thank you for the question, Azamun. I am reading YouTube chat. It's just that I'm going between TikTok and YouTube, and there's a lot of interactions on TikTok. You will always welcome to come there. Even though I do encourage people to stay on YouTube because it gives us also some audience here that we get to. Yeah, absolutely. To you too. Um, due to the method being more optimal, he's focusing on TikTok. It seems. Uh, don't feel so don't feel so discouraged, guys. There's just more people. But to be honest, there's getting more and more people now on YouTube. So you're right. I should just go back and forth. My ADHD is also a little crazy, so sometimes it's hard. I will pay more attention to the comments on YouTube. Sometimes also when I go on a rant, I don't pay attention to any comments at all, and then I have to read all of them. And then when I go into one, I have to scroll, and then it's kind of hard to go to the other one. But you're right; it's on me to make sure that I'm paying attention to both. I'll do better. So feel free to ask here and I'll respond. And again, to your question, Danny, I do think sound is involved. It's just so far everything I tried didn't work. If you have ideas, I'm more than open to them. We are the cool kids. Take, thanks to the business. Well, I really appreciate you, man. Wait, you keep going until we're done with the chat. We're probably gonna have like 30, 50,000 likes. That'd be great. Okay, hold on. But the right hand side is although I'm. Whoa. You put something one. I didn't see number one, so let me go back. Oh, I don't see you put number one, so maybe this is just number two. Two, but the right hand side is although. I'm not sure what you mean, polyfocal. I'm sorry. TikTok chef for the win. Yo, bros, 4 a.m. over here. Gotta sleep. Dan, thanks for everything. I'll come back to you. Great. Absolutely, Renee. That is great. That is some great content. We are the cool kids. Absolutely, we are. Have you noticed a difference if you look at the code at a different location country? Yes, no difference. Seems to be the same exactly. Or it's kind of hard to analyze, but it seems be doing exactly the same thing. I tried it in a few places in the world. The tapping empress. Thank you, tapping empress. Now that can be taken out of context if it's just your handle, but that would be a great handle. Dan, do you think some of the progress humanity is making on understanding the nature of reality and ourselves is due to some sort of space weather or cosmic cycle, Akayuga cycle, etc.? Absolutely, I absolutely think so. Thank you for that wonderful question. I do think that certain kinds of information makes itself available at a certain season and also at a certain level of emergence of the universe itself. In other words, maybe the laser was not even possible 10 years ago. Very possible. And then they made it possible because we are ready or because I don't know why. But I'm very open to the idea that everything is seasonal and there are these open windows in which you can understand more and windows that close when you can understand less. But we can see one. Yeah, I can see one. You see one? Can you repeat number one? Polyfoci. Apologies. I looked also and I don't see number one. Thank you, Alex, before the live. That'd be awesome. I don't know if it's basically the right hand side of applying Bayes analysis to the probability of simulation theory given code. So the I'll probably email. Sorry, no, not at all. I love this questioning. So I'll tell you what my not issue, but statistical probability is, well, anything with probabilities is a really good tool to try and play with things that you don't know, again, like with what the probability of something to occur, right? If you want to use this to see if what is the probability that we actually see the code, um if I'm understanding you correctly, like if what, first of all, what is the pool out of which you're measuring? So what is your full set? That would be my first question. My other question would be, what is the relevance of this? Because there's certain kinds of things, and we don't have a lot of examples of this, and this is one of the problems also to communicate this to scientifically minded people. But certain things have this quality that in my first video I'm calling epistemological. What did I call it? I forgot already. Epistemological something. Hold on, I'll remember. Epistemologically sound. And what I mean by that is that there's certain things that when you see them, you know they're real. And what I specifically mean by that is that you know that whatever they are, it belongs to a layer of existence that is as insistent as what you call physical matter. Because all we know is physical matter, we don't really have to make this distinction or to have this as a category. So we just call things physical because we can touch them, right? But when I saw the code, I realized, wait a second, I know this is real. I don't need anybody else to see it. Now, I obviously also wanted to make sure, and who knows, right? Because of the molecule. But when I saw it, I knew immediately it was real. There was something about it that just tells you it's real, right? This insistence. The behavior is of the kind that I always say this is a word that cognitive scientists use, which is that it's called objectness, which is it's a quality that is contrived of the repertoire of all the possible things that your brain knows about how objects behave in the three-dimensional space. The code has that. So if you try, and again, I'm going to look in the comments in a moment, and if I just took this rant in a direction you didn't intend, apologies, but I'm going to finish this thought. You don't need to run statistical probabilities to know if this, in fact, was seeing it. Anybody who sees it knows they saw it. All that you need to do that is to establish that is for a scientist, for him to see it. Now, a scientist would say that should never satisfy. That is the mistake the science is making, and I'm very open about this. And I am one of the biggest fans of the scientific method. I'll be the first one to defend all the tenets that allow us to make progress. But this part, science got wrong. What is being overlooked here, and I only understood this after interacting with the code for a little while. What is being overlooked here is that all observation, all scientific endeavors, including the deepest theories we have, the mathematical frameworks that are accompanied by observations and experimentations, all of these things, they are always suffused with the ability to experience some portion of the truth under question. Let me clarify. Let me also make sure that YouTube didn't have comments that I'm ignoring. 1 second. Can recommend Dark Star of Myth and Time to everyone for a good book. So YouTube is recommending the book Dark Star of Myth and Time. Thank you. So go with the various color plates. Lisa is saying try to look at the code with various colors lasers, and she still can't see it. I'm gonna address this in a moment, Lisa. Thank you for and never seen the code. Interesting. So I'll address this in a moment. Let me just finish the thought that I was telling polyfoci. What I mean by everything I just said is that in order for us to know that the magnetic field is there, you have to have a physical body that can feel the influence of magnetism. So it is true that even without having the ability to feel the strength of the magnetic field, we would probably still arrive at the conclusion that there's some kind of a force that is happening because of all the other things that we understand about the physical world. And a lot of these things, they're tangential. So like they exist together, not tangential, but they exist at the same time. Okay. So because they coexist, they have some relationships with one another, which means that if you know about any of them, you can slowly, by using your intellect, deduct and progress to the understanding of more and more and more of them, which is essentially what science is doing. Because there's a lot of things we can't see, like a lot of cosmic rays, but we still know they're there because we postulated if this is true about light, then this also must be true about light. And then we test it. Then we build a device that kind of looks in this spectrum, and we have very clever ways of doing that. And then we find things and we say, oh, okay, we were right about that. Oh, we were wrong about that. We're right about that. We're wrong about that. And that's how we keep going. Conjecture and testing, conjecture and testing, conjecture and testing. Here's what science is missing. There's always this first conjecture that is always based on some experience. Always. The fact that we know anything about the electromagnetic field is because we have an entry point by having eyes. So we know some portion of the electromagnetic field exists because we have eyes that perceive some portion of it. If we wouldn't have eyes, we would never know about the electromagnetic field, which, by the way, I would put forth is the case for many things in existence that we still don't know that they exist because we don't have senses that are even close to all the other things that we so far discovered by deduction or by experimentation around the other senses that we do have. So when you see the code, you know it's real, just like you know that magnetism is real because you have eyes and they tell you there's a repertoire of behavior there that can only exist in the same realm of things that you call real. In order to establish that, to move it to a higher level of awareness of, I guess, cultural awareness, you will absolutely need to come up with a model, a theory, whatever you want to call it, a way to test for it, to actually go through all the checks, the checklist of what it can also be, and try and eliminate these. Everything the scientific method would require to establish it scientifically. Then you can inculcate it into more, common language and move it up the ladder to discussion in pop culture and blah, 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 blah. But you will never need to run a statistical analysis to know if it's real, because just by seeing it, you know it's real. What you will need is an understanding what in fact is going on, test for certain perturbations of it, and then see if you can actually, decide that this portion of the code does this portion of the code does that, or maybe it does none of them, and it only codes for experience. And then you're going to need a set of much more complex ways to test it because we don't even understand what consciousness is. But my point is, I feel like statistical analysis has very little to do with this particular thing in this stage of the game. That's that. Now, I almost there's some trepidation in me to look at the comments because I might have taken your point in a completely different direction. It's very plausible, by the way, but I'm glad I had this little rant because I think it's important for everybody to understand it. YouTube, I see you. 1 second. I'm going to address everybody at the same time. I'm going to take a few comments from TikTok and then I'll go directly to YouTube. So please be patient with me. I've noticed my experiences have been different by large bodies of water, maybe because water is consciousness. Water is consciousness? Whoa, now that's a crazy thought. That would be interesting because everything with consciousness has some amount of water. Whoa, that is a mind fuck. Gotta think about that. Let me see. I've noticed okay. Water is great energy amplifier. Maybe that has impact. Maybe. Top acid television. I've heard that water holds memory. Yeah, I've heard these claims. I tried some of the experimentation. It didn't really work for me. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it didn't work for me so far. What sparked your idea to look behind the laser originally? That's what the documentary is going to be about. So I don't want to. I've talked about it quite a bit, but it's not even that I'm lazy to talk about it. I think the documentary would tell it best. So I'll leave you with that. But you will enjoy it, I promise. If you bounce laser off a mirror onto a wall and look at the wall, do you see two layers of code? That is a great question. I did not try that. This is amazing. Thank you, Cal. You're full with all kinds of ideas. Your idea was also with the magnet from the other room. Dude, you're brilliant. Your hand movement are so elegant. Well, thank you. I feel like a ballerina now. uh, delectably deviant. Whoa, now that's a handle. Um, time for dinner. We'll see you after you are still on. Thank you, Matt Killigan. Enjoy dinner. And the business, I've invited you a few times. I'm assuming you choose to remain silent today, but if you want to come on, you're always welcome, brother. I only discovered what the word inculcate means a few weeks ago. Coincidence? Wait, no, please look. What do you delectably deviant? What do you mean by that? The fact that our DNA is computer code. The fact is our DNA is computer code. Very possible. Just requested. Let's see. Accept. There you go, brother. Yeah, I sent you a few requests, brother. While you're coming on, I'm gonna answer some YouTube comments. Thank you guys for the participation. Let me see. So Lisa was saying that she tried different colored lasers, and she still couldn't see the code. I want to address this. This is really interesting to me. So there's a few people, like Lisa, for example, that are having a hard time seeing the code. Now, for some people, it's usually reserved for a few hours, maybe a couple times or 3 times. I think, Lisa, you're actually the longest standing candidate that I know of that is actually Cal is also one of them that just can't see the code. Now, I tried to I try and try and try. Also, try. Thank you for participating. So I tried to try and come up with explanation. I tried. Oh my god, I can't get out of it. Okay, I tried to come up with explanations as to why that might be the case, and I cannot, for the life of me, understand what is the cause for this. Because eventually, when people do see it, they can't unsee it, and something changed. The only thing I can say, until we figure out what it actually is, to Lisa and everybody else listening, and the fact that you tried different colored lasers is actually a big data point, because I thought maybe one of the reasons is maybe some people are just colorblind in that spectrum and they just can't see the differences. But you're saying you saw it in all kinds. The other hint that came to me was during my meditation retreat, and I was walking out of the bathroom, and there was in the bathroom there was a box of tissues, and the name on the box of tissues, my eyes landed on the name. I'll tell you what it was in a moment. Right when I was thinking about this particular subject, why do some people don't see the code right away? Or why some people just can't see the code, it seems, for a while, and then why do they all of a sudden see it and they don't even know what changed? And then as I was thinking this, I turn and I see this box of tissues, and on the name of the company of the box of tissues is Choice. And I was like, whoa. So it's almost like it's telling me it's a choice. You choose to not see it. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was just like one of these like random synchronicities that made me feel like it was significant, but it wasn't. But it seemed significant. So I do think that that, in fact, is, at the moment, that's my best attempt at explaining it. There's some part of us that actually chooses, and our entire evolution as humans is actually to learn how to move closer to that place that chooses. Whoa, okay. that was a Bill and Ted. Whoa. Okay. Wait a second. That might be it. Maybe the code is one of the reasons for the code. One of the things that it allows us to do is to practice. Because if you can't see it and all of a sudden you can, that means you changed something about your internal space that brought you closer to the choice of seeing it. Because if you wanted the upper part wanted to see it, but the actual place that chooses is too far removed from being able to see it, then eventually when you do see it, you know that you are now closer or more aligned with that place that chooses. Now, this is highly speculative, but this would make perfect sense actually. It's almost like an interface to show you how far you are from your choice mechanism, the real choice mechanism that chooses, everything in life. Azamun is saying, I fully agree then that modern science has really made a mistake when it relegated direct human experience as a lower quality of data than others and currently seems to prefer. Yeah, but I have to be honest. It took me quite a while to appreciate this. Because why is it not? Hold on. Okay, here we go. I don't know why I wasn't accepting it. You're on the business. So while the business is coming on, I'm going to answer your question. It took me a little while to actually appreciate this because I am a big proponent of the scientific method. I think it is the best game in town so far. I just think that it needs to be expanded to include also things like consciousness. It's just that we don't know how. So I don't blame the different sciences that are not doing that, because in the end of the day, science, just like any other human institution, is based on funds. And some people think funds are a bad thing. I don't think so. I think it's just a way of measuring value at the moment, which is not perfect, but we're going to figure it out. But because of that, you need to be very careful with the kinds of propositions and the kinds of things and topics you're saying you're interacting with in order to get the right fund. Because otherwise, you're simply going to be without a job. And if you invested 5, 7, 10 years of your life in academia, and all of a sudden you're going to lose the opportunity to be part of academia, I can totally understand why one would be reluctant to make certain utterances that might lose them their career, right? So as much as I understand it, I do know for a fact that we have to find a way to inject the scientific, the observer into the scientific method, because that is the only way to ensure that we're not sweeping under the rug the most important thing, the most central thing that we actually know about. Danny is saying, I sent you a picture that shows complexity about the sounds I managed to construct, so that you open to the opportunity that there can be sound which actually works, provide different results. Again, Danny, to make it very clear, I'm very open to it. I am not for a second negating it. I am going by what I tried and so far worked or didn't work. So I have to be honest about reporting about what in fact is going on. All of that being said, I am convinced that sound is involved. I just don't know how exactly it's involved. And he says, the audio methods you have crossed paths with, picture sent on Instagram. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. And excited to finally talk with you at some point. Glenn Bordeaux is saying, see Veda Austin Rewater Consciousness. It's Veda Austin is the one with the petri dish, right? Or am I confusing it with something else? Is that the one where you put the petri dish on top of the image, you put it in the freezer, and then it's supposed to mimic the image? If it is, I tried it. It didn't work for me, but I admitted that I only tried it with So I tried it. It didn't work for me, but I only tried it with the mason jar, and I will try it with an actual petri dish. I'm very open for it being actually the case. And Lisa is saying, I've seen it twice, but on only weed and in my bar. Interesting. So maybe the specifics, and maybe something else in your brain is actually activating you. My friends all can. Interesting. Danny is saying, if free will is absolute, then it is a choice, but there is a distinction about making a choice and achieving something and making a choice and still not being able to walk through the walls, right? Let me read that again. If free will is absolute, also take into account that Danny is doing a great job, because it's actually not his first language. So I appreciate you, because I know I won't understand if you speak your language. I think you are from Hungary, right? If free will is absolute, then it is a choice. I'm not sure that I'm following the logic. Maybe it's a language barrier, but you're saying if free will is absolute. So first of all, why would free will be absolute? What does that mean? And then it is a choice. But there is a distinction about making a choice and achieving something, and making a choice and still not being able to walk through. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, to what extent is the choice really choosing if we still have something we call, and if I'm wrong about what I'm recapitulating about your point, feel free to correct me, Danny. But I feel like you're asking, to what extent is a choice really going if we still have what's called the physical world, or what we perceive as the physical world, that is still putting us in a certain box from which we cannot choose. In other words, we can't walk through the wall no matter what we choose, right? So this is a great question, and I think that there are layers of the code, and the more conscious we become, we control vaster and vaster bubbles of that code. So when you reach a certain level, just like you can control your hand right now. So for example, you can look at motoric function, right? So you don't just control further and further space, but you might be able to control vaster temporal dimensions. You might be able to control more nuanced complexity, which is what you see when you move from primates to apes to humans. You can see this higher and higher ability of dexterity, and also of the ability to be more complex with all kinds of things, not just with physical function. But clearly, like if you look at human acrobats, it is true that a lot of things that monkeys do, when they specialize in them, that are way crazier than humans, but that's mostly because they're coded to do that one particular thing, right? They didn't acquire that ability, their genes carried that ability, and they have much stronger muscles than us. So it's a physical ability. But if you look at, again, the dexterity, if you look also at like how complex our behavior with our hands, look at magic, look at acrobatics, all of these things that are not naturally born, not naturally inborn in humans, we can develop them as abilities because we have a universal understanding of what's possible. And some of it we can do with our bodies, some of it we can do with okay, so I don't know why it gave us a restriction. But apparently we're restricted now. I don't even know why I could have possibly said that they gave us restriction. But some of these things, um, I wish they would actually tell you what the problem is. This is so crazy that they don't tell you what the issue is, because then you can correct for it, right? It's like, no, you should know. It's like a shitty girlfriend. It's like, no, you should know. um, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so it's not just in the physical ability, in the physical realm, but you choose to play with higher and higher complexities of integration with, through technology, through ways of interacting with the world. We build rockets, we go to space, we understand the universe at large and the very small and things like that, and we develop mathematics. All of these things, I guess you can call them a dexterity of information of a mind, and that, I think, is where the key is. That the choices grow according to a deeper and deeper, more universal understanding of what the world really is. And eventually, when you learn how to play these notes, reach out and play these notes, then maybe we'll be able to even uh, interact with things like moving through walls and things like this. But who knows, man? But that's a great question. Thank you. Azamun is asking, Dan, where are you from out of curiosity? I was born in Russia, in Moscow, but I live in the US. Yes. Final question by you, Danny, and then I'm going to TikTok. As if frames are needed for coordination, and the code environment is frameless, or the macro frame itself, we are trying to extend the flexibility in ourselves to fake unrestrictedness with tools. But the only thing I would add to that is that the tools are not faking it. Their abilities to move through the environment that is being coded as more real, that is outside of your immediate bubble of influence with your choice. So if what physical reality outside is outside of your boundary of what you can choose to do with, building the tools, if it's all mind, are signifiers to the larger mind that you understand something about the environment. If you understand that if you can build a horseshoe magnet, like you don't build it, but like you construct it, right? It tells the rest of the world that you understand something about magnetism, because otherwise you wouldn't be building this weird shaped looking thing. What else would you build this for, if not because you understand that there's some kind of a force there you're interacting with, because that's all it does, right? So the fact of you having this object, manufacture this object, or building a laser, it tells the rest of the world, the rest of the universe, that's the universal language, that you inculcated, you instantiated some information, some knowledge inside of a physical thing, that when that thing exists, the universe doesn't need to know the language you're speaking, or because maybe the language itself is opaque, because it might be somewhat it's just arbitrary to the rest of the universal mind, because it sounds that we got used to. But the universal mind doesn't need in the Rosetta Stone to translate every single thing you say. But if you build certain structures, it automatically tells the rest of the universe that you understand something. And it tells it something about your stage of development. It tells it something about what kind of things you must be entertaining in this stage of your game. You see what I'm saying? So I wouldn't say it's faking it. It's telling the rest of the universe where you are in your level of understanding. Interesting. My father has been many grant funding panels and shared sometimes good proposals are laughed at because they are outside of a current paradigm despite merit in his view. I couldn't agree more. This is happening way too often, to be honest. Has Americans said many of the interesting funding proposals from Russian scientists, he says, seem more open-minded. That is also true. Okay, let me go to TikTok a little bit, and then I'll address your final thing, Danny. Thank you. Context right, and it's stepping up to complexity threshold to be accepted by it would be okay. So I'll interact with it in one moment. Hey Morpheus, how are you? Chase, that's you, right? Let me see it, all the comments. Let's see. We really need to connect soon. No admitted to drop the ball and mailing you. Oh, you can just, I think you have my number, no? Chase? You can just text me. And also, Chase, you're always welcome to come and chat if you want.
Hey, I need your number too, so I can text you, Danny.
Absolutely, I'll DM it to you. Oh.
And I sent you a gift to your email. You'll get a kick out of it.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll shoot you my number. Okay. Oh, I see. There's a bunch of people commenting. There's so there's so many silly jokes that I always want to make, and then I'm like, oh wait, we're on TikTok. I should probably not make these jokes. It's so ridiculous. Like I literally have to police my own language. Does not feel good. Okay, let me go back here. By the way, to your comment, the business that your experiences have changed. I know that's not what you meant because you were talking about body of water. But what I have also noticed is that the experiences, at least my experiences, changed in nature in the molecule since 10 years ago. It's almost like something changed in the space. Like it evolves as well. I remember different kinds of. Now you can always say, well, when you mature, your mind is different, and therefore your experiences are different. I don't think so. I think something has changed in the space itself, actually. And if you think about it, it's kind of like always my gripe with people who postulate UFOs. I'm not saying they don't exist, to be clear. I know for a fact that something is there. I'm just saying something is off about the story, not in how people tell it, but in the fact that there's something here that doesn't fully align, which is, look at how much our technology evolved in the last 20 years, let alone in 60 years, 70 years. Why would it be the same flying saucers from 80 years ago to now? Their space would evolve way faster than ours, unless they're coming from the same time, which is like they're just kind of shooting the same thing over different times, but they're coming from the exact same time. I don't know, but that applies also to the molecule space. I think they're always evolving, so the space might actually be changing and going through transitions and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, because that overwhelming sense of more real than real, since it's not a hallucination and it is a real space, of course it would grow and evolve just like our space would.
Absolutely. Yep. Also, I'm still trying to decode, because I'm going back in the comments and now I see it again. The delectably deviant said, I only discovered what the word inculcate means a few weeks ago, and then she said, no, please look. I don't know what that means. The fact that our DNA is computer code. Okay, I went through this. Can you see it without the laser? Only 2 people that I know have said that they do. I saw it sometimes when I'm tired, but I think that maybe it's not quite the same. The entities did something to my eyes. Only dance. I think repetitive use has something to do with it. Wait a second. So only dance. You have to remind me. You saw the code? I think you said you have, right? If you have, first of all, make sure that the laser is no more than 5 milliwatts. But I do agree with you that something about the code is also uploading itself into us. So I don't know why or what. I don't know if this is, I hope it's the best script, but but I do feel that it's actually uploading itself and then makes it more coherent to you. Different colored lasers. Can we verify she's not using laser pens? No, Lisa, you're using a diffracted laser, right? I'm pretty sure she does. No, some people are having a hard time, just like you, Cal. I don't know of a lot of people that tried more than twice and didn't see it, but again, doesn't mean anything wrong with you. It actually makes it more interesting to me why that's the case. And also, okay, business, thank you. Give me some code. Lisa is saying, truth is within. When you wear something, it will just ring true for you. When you hear something. True, but not absolutely true. So there's a place for intuition, and then there's a place for also measuring things more accurately that will then inform larger intuitions. So I always use this example, so I should probably find a new example, not to be boring, but it's the only one that comes to mind right now. If you walk into a room and you smell gas, yes, I know they add the scent. It's not naturally in the gas you have in your stove, but still, you can smell that there's gas in a room. There's either a gas leak or you forgot the stove on. One of these is true, and you know that with 100% certainty. You don't need a grant. You don't need anything. That's your senses. You can call it intuition. You can call it whatever you want. Intuition, I guess, it's a collection of many parts of the experience that all combine into one emotional signature. So the more you have interaction with something, no matter how complex, your brain will consolidate it into some kind of a feeling you have about this particular arrangement of these factors, about this particular thing. And if you've been an electrician for 40 years and you walk into a room and you see that this wire is sticking from over there, and this wire is over here, doesn't matter. You will kind of know what the wiring is. You just know. You have an intuition. Now, you don't have to analyze. You just know because you have so much experience with what is possible about a room, about this particular house, when wires go this way, why is it that way? All of these things are consolidated to this one instance of you feeling this, and that's your intuition. Now, mind you that electrician had to be an electrician for 40 years to have this level of intuition on that level. So it's not quite true that everything would just ring true. Some of it might ring true and you will be dead wrong. And that also happens. It's just that we sharpen our intuitions as we go, but the analytic side is a big portion of it. The reason I use the gas example is because it's a binary. There's gas and there's no gas. But if you want to know what's the volume, what is the exact amount of gas in the air right now, what is the average, you have to bring in calculating tools. You have to bring in something to actually, measure something in the room, then kind of analyze what is the volume of the room, how long it's been, like all that stuff, right? So you wouldn't necessarily know. But if you're some kind of an expert that has something to do with chemical warfare, or I don't know, you're trained or whatever, I don't know, I'm just making it up, right? You might be able to sense even the ballpark of distribution and how much there is of a particular gas in a room just by how pungent the smell is, let's say. So they always go hand in hand. So we should never elevate one over the other. They're one common project, and that's also how I see what science should be doing. It should never denigrate the role of intuition, and people that are more what Alan Watts called wavy. They should never denigrate the level of the accuracy of measurement, because it's also very important. Sounds definitely have an effect. I agree with that. There was also a scary entity staring back at me inside the infinite spinning blue code realm. Wait, this is interesting to me. The business, can you mute it just so we don't have the background noise? And then come on at any point, just so we don't have the background noise. Sideways Slacker said there was also a scary entity staring back at me inside the infinite spinning blue code realm. Are you saying that you saw the code um, with the blue laser, or are you talking about some other instance? And then Chase is saying we really need to connect soon. I absolutely agree. Feel free to text me, brother. Truth is a problem. Now that's a T-shirt. Yeah, they moderate one of my questions too. That's crazy. What is happening? Okay. If choice is a component to seeing the code, you may gain the ability to see the without molecule. Very possible. Very possible. And maybe that's what it's for, actually. If you're not tapping, you're napping. Peace to that. I love that. Jumped again. Yes, it tells the construct what you want. Intend, construct will adjust the programming. Maybe. Very, very plausible. What's your YouTube channel called? Dango Thoughts. DAN, one word. GO, second word. Thoughts, third word.
So, Danny, have you ever thought about what a being outside of space and time, how it views like a human's life? I know we were talking about like what free will is and all that. So I've got something typed out right here. So it's my question was like, how would a being outside of space and time perceive a human's life? Would it be like a centipede? Would free will even be a thing?
You mean centipede in the sense that it's kind of like the person's soul stretching over time? That's what you mean?
Right. To where it's stretched out. So it's like a being outside of space and time would perceive human life in a way where instead of it being constrained by a linear progression of time or spatial limitations, it would perceive it as like a complete all-encompassing entity, a kind of like time slice of the entire life from birth to death, seen all at the same time, right? So imagine not seeing just a snapshot of a person at any given moment, but rather the entire life in a single complex tapestry, which would resemble a long, like interconnected thread or even like a centipede-like form where each segment represents a moment, decision, or experience. And every choice, action, and consequence would be visibly simultaneous without the constraints of past, present, and future. So regarding free will, it depends on the nature of this being's perception. If it sees everything all at once, it might perceive human actions as deterministic, where every choice and outcome is already woven into the fabric of a person's life. And from this perspective, free will might appear as an illusion since the entire story of a person's life is already laid out. However, from the human perspective, where time is linear, free will still feels very real, and the difference lies in the perspective. So when you're inside space and time, free will is about making choices within the flow of time. But when an entity looking from the outside in, everything could seem as a complete, unchangeable whole. So that's just kind of food for thought when it comes to, what is free will truly. And it just depends on what dimension you're residing in at the moment.
42.
There it is.
So there's some really good food for thought there. I think that, well, first of all, let's start with the most obvious, is that we don't have the first clue as what it would be like to be the nirvana, essentially. If nirvana even like looks back down into linear existence, and also, is nirvana outside of all of existence, or is it still portion of some layer of existence? Like, I don't know. These questions are already kind of like, we're toying with so many infinite variables that it just kind of breaks your brain. But I do see what you're alluding to, and if I have to summarize it in a couple of sentences, you're essentially saying, as long as you have any linear perception of time, you would always have some feeling of progression, and therefore every moment seems to be leading to the next in some form. And what's accompanied to that is this experience we're having, that some of them were resting on what we call choice. In other words, there was this central unit of awareness that was experiencing the existence of choices between two or more things, and then it did something. It doesn't know what to call it and what it actually is, and then that something caused this one particular thing to happen versus this other thing to happen, and then later you have a story about why you think you made that choice, and so it goes. But from the perspective of this universal, outside of existence, universal, whatever you want to call it, these kind of wiggles would simply appear as a block universe in which everything exists already as a tree, and all the possible things that were supposed to happen and could happen all can be seen all at once. In other words, this is the ultimate observer just seeing everything all at once. I guess what I would say is that what makes sense to me would be that if you are the ultimate thing, which is the full observer, you don't really have, because it's a block universe, you don't really have any kind of attempts, drives, needs, relationship to, you are it. It's not even that you can see all of it, because it would imply seeing, which means you're here looking here. But if you are it, all of it, you just is, which is a great sentence. But because you are in this state of just is, you don't, there's no like attempt to do something with. There's just like, it's just a state of affairs. It's just what it is, right? And that raises a deeper question for me, which is there a telos to the universe? Is there a reason for everything happening, or it's just how it is and that's it, and there's no really deeper explanation? Ultimately, just like in this story that I told you guys a few days ago about me having this explosive experience of the full diagram of everything, that how it works, what I took from it in the end is, okay, now what? Now that you know that this is how it is, what do you do with it? Is there anything you can do with it? And the obvious answer is no. If anything, it kind of takes you further away from being able to I think you I think it takes you further away from being able to commit yourself to the types of things that will lead to better choices, that will cause, I guess, a more leveled experience, more balanced, filled with more joy and all the positive things that you can think about. Now, ultimately, if we look talking about the full picture, it's not even necessarily the case that it's nowhere written that the preference should be towards all the things that we deem as good and pleasant and all of that stuff. But that already gets you into this whole, like, good and evil, God, and like, how does it actually play into the picture?
Well, you already made the correct response. The correct response was 42.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah. 42 is the answer. Now, what is the question, though? See, this is the thing. What is the question is the question.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of like the one thing that came to me, that maybe 21 questions.
Oh yeah.
Right, the game where you ask 21, you get to ask 21 yes or no questions. So maybe 42 is the number of correct questions you have to ask in succession about yes or no that can lead you to the ultimate understanding.
Wow. So the 43rd question is...
There is no 43rd question. And the 42nd question, if you ask all the right questions, that final yes or no, you're just like, oh, okay.
You become the all that is.
You become the all there is, yeah. And then fuck, I just wanted to eat some Chipotle. Okay. Oh, somebody's asking, Jack is saying 42 mean. Jack, that's a reference to a gag, or maybe not even. Honestly, I don't think it's a gag at this point. There's a famous book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There's also that I highly recommend to read. There's also a movie if you don't feel like reading, but the movie is clearly not as good as the books. But anyway, in the book, there's this very advanced civilization that reaches a certain stage of development in which they say, okay, we realized everything there is to realize. We still don't understand why in the world everything exists. So they build this super mega ultra computer to help them answer that question. And they come to this computer and they say, hey, almighty computer, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? And the computer goes, well, it will take me some time to calculate it. Come back in 7.5 million years and I will give you the answer. So they're very happy with that result. They go and live their lives for 7.5 million years, come back, and there's a big celebration, big party, and then they're like, "Oh, what do you have an answer for us?" It's like, "Yeah, I calculated and I have the answer, but you will not like it." They go, "No, no, no, come on, tell us." So there's this whole build up, and he goes, "All right, you asked for it." And he goes, "The answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42." And then everybody obviously are like, "What?" And everybody quiet is like, "What does that mean? What kind of answer is that?" So the computer goes, "I don't know. What kind of question is that?" And then the computer goes, "Well, the thing is that the answer is correct." Or actually, I don't even know if that was in the book. I don't know. And that actually changes the little tilt on it. But that would be a cool concept if that is the case. But he said, the computer goes, "Well, what you don't realize is that the answer doesn't mean anything without knowing what you're asking. So the thing is, you don't know what the ultimate question is. That's what you want." And then he said, "Okay, well, can you calculate the ultimate question?" And the computer goes, "No, I'm not powerful enough, but I can build a computer that is more powerful than myself that will be able to calculate the ultimate question." And they say, "Great." And then in the book, the computer that computer builds is the Earth. So essentially, Earth is a computer that is calculating the ultimate question. And what I think is happening is that the book is actually a documentary. That's actually true. Only the computer that is calculating the ultimate question is not the Earth, but the multiverse itself. That is the relevance of 42. So let me see a couple of things here. And then we'll go back. Oh, let me just take a couple more from TikTok. If you're not tapping, you're not. Okay.
Hey, I know you've been doing lives on YouTube and TikTok. Are you going to start doing spaces on X soon?
That's a great idea. By a vote of everybody
Elon's all about the go as you will and say as you want.
Oh, you know what? That is a great. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm just not big on X. Like I don't have a big following there. But everybody on YouTube and TikTok right now, if you want to vote, like if you tell me I am on TikTok, I'm like barely existing. But you can find me as Goler Danny. I think it's Goler.Danny or Goler Danny. I think it's
Goler Danny.
Yeah. If you find me there, and maybe it's a good idea. Maybe I can do all three, but I need another device because I don't know if I can. I need to. I can just do it from my iPad probably. But yeah, because I don't want to neglect the other ones. I know that because I have a Mac, I can't really stream through any of the services through to multiple places at once, which is a problem. But I can do 3 different devices for now. That's a great idea, man. I think I'm going to start implementing it. Maybe even from tomorrow. We'll see.
For sure.
Thank you, man. Everybody, welcome to go follow me there, Goler Danny. And I'll start streaming there. No, I'll start streaming there. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it'd be a good way to get your follower count up there because everyone that follows you on YouTube and TikTok just add to your X account, and then I guarantee once you do a live on X, you'll start gathering more people that haven't found you yet. I think it's a good place.
That is a brilliant idea, man. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Interconstructible way. Okay, we got that. Interdimensional. I agree that the beings are interdimensional. I think the sky is a holosphere. I agree with that as well. Well, everything is, not just the sky. I see. Oh, and Only Dance is saying, I see it without the laser. It started happening after repetitive use. So Only Dance, that would be interesting if you can send me an email, please, at lasersimulationx@gmail.com. I would love to discuss this. Do you see the code without the laser, without the molecule, with the same amount of fidelity that you see it with? Or is it a little different? Is it more murky? Because I see it sometimes when I'm tired, but not like what you see it on the molecule. So I would love if you tell me. Man, this is so annoying. It just keeps jumping. I can hop on VC and explain it if you want. It's like absolutely seeing all of time all at once. That's exactly how it is. Interesting. Yeah, no, absolutely. It just doesn't allow me. Interesting. Signy Slacker, I don't see a way to invite you. So if you want to request outside of time, would see many lives and many worlds, maybe probably worlds. If theory is correct, a true matrix. Yeah, I agree with that. I only what I said. I think it's just like there's no more seeing. It's just what it is, and that's it. And I don't think that state is possible to imagine. The most frustrating part, you can't really share with anyone else. That is true. How many roads must a man walk down? That was I think that was in the book actually. Matt killing it. How many roads does a man has to go down? Was one of the possibilities that Arthur in the book thought about. That is the answer, the question to which the answer is 42. How are you, Matt killing it? I hope Goller Danny, thank you to business. I hope dinner was good. What a great synthesis of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In 42, I always thought the multiverse is actually Earth, and each verse is every consciousness. That is very, very possible. By the way, to anybody who read the book or the first book or saw the movie, I highly recommend you to listen to or read all the books. There's 5 of them. They're phenomenal. Every single one of them is phenomenal. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. I don't remember the order, but So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, Life, the Universe, and Everything, and Mostly Harmless. These 5 books are stellar. Okay, let me go to YouTube. Danny is saying it lets you access if the context is right, and we are stepping up to complexity threshold to be accepted by it would be the idea. I agree with that. Let's reframe for business there as if non-framing is coordination in its pure form. The code environment is one of the more fundamental environments, more fundamental environments, and they are trying to become more real to be included. That is very deep, and I agree with that. It's almost like we are the gate through which things manifest, if I understand you correctly, and then by us seeing it, it becomes. And this is why everything in the multiverse competes for our attention, because through our attention, it can become. The way free will was explained to me is that all possibilities exist in a potential cloud, and consciousness can trace different paths through the cloud and then experience the story. You will that I would say that is accurate, Azamun, but I would also say that it still leaves out the problem, which is that what is it that consciousness is doing to choose that ultimate trajectory versus left, right versus left? And I would say that is the thing that everything in the universe is interested in, because the ultimate version of that choice, the hole in the donut goes all the way to the bottom of reality itself, is why did reality choose to exist versus not to exist? This ultimate binary in the beginning that goes through everything, basically. And then he's saying, but from that direction, only source exists. So fully entropy is hard not to be reached from there. The layer of paradoxes, fakery, and strange loops are the only control layer when viewing from there. The only thing I would disagree with there is that for me, saying that anything fundamental is the only thing that exists is always missing the point, because the fact that you're having this experience right now, this second, means that there's a validity to it. So there's some importance to it. The fact that there's something more fundamental that you are an expression of does not mean that the moment of you experiencing it individually doesn't count. It counts like everything else. Understanding dynamics of source are possibly beyond us in this form, Danny. I don't know how you can rebut. I don't know if you can argue with that, but I think we can experience and observe certain characteristics of source, such as love, etc., would maybe more useful. I agree. It's essentially what I said, but you said it much better. Thank you. Thank you, Cal. Thank you for emailing. Thank you, everybody, for being here. YouTube gets more words. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the idea of X. Thank you, Beastness. That's brilliant. I don't know. I didn't think of that.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I know, man. You're so useful. Can't wait to buy a house through you.
Let's go. I'm going there tomorrow.
Let's do it. I may not be able to go to TikTok live. Isn't there some limitation? Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the number of followers. Oh, I can. I'll request in a few. Okay. So sign we slacker. Some we slacker. I'm not sure how you pronounce. First of all, I'm gonna save your handle. And
Yeah, I think you've got to have the 1,000 followers on TikTok.
I think he does. I think he does. Let's see. Yeah. Oh no, he only has 228. That's why. But in any case, if you send a thing, I'll approve you. Only take into account that we might not chat for very long today because I will have to hop off in a moment. But we can definitely do it another day. Give me 1 second. I'm not adjourning quite yet. 1 second. Hey baby, you want to go alone? Want to go on with that?
Danny's got some new dogs he's got to take care of. Has anyone here in the live read the short story The Egg by Andy Weir?
Yeah, like to go on like a take my actual stroll. Let's see. Watch a movie with my wife. A wonderful. Have a good night, Matt. Killing it. Yeah, the movie is good, but definitely not good as the books. But hey, it's good enough. You will enjoy it. Maybe I'll rewatch it. Night. Okay, everybody. So I see everybody are peacing out. I'll peace out as well. Let me take a couple more comments from Danny. From that direction, I agree until this disclaimer was read. This makes a distinction frame, which makes it true. I might have failed there to present the direction, though. Man, you are in the best way possible. You're from another planet. I love it. How I observed it was that a powerful consciousness became self-aware in the void, and that instant of waking for this local god was the creation of our local omniverse. Man, I love these chats. The egg by Andy Weir is great. I do like the Kurzgesagt rendition of it. Kurzgesagt is good luck with typing that. Hold on, let me. There's a Kurzgesagt. That compounded by the fact that I have dyslexia. This is amazing. Okay, I'm gonna put this here. Copy. Okay, let me see if it allows me to do that here. Comments. Boom. Thank God. Okay. So if you go to this channel that I just put, whatever this word is, on YouTube, they have a great rendition of The Egg. But yeah, the original story by Andy Weir is phenomenal. It's really, really good. Let me put it here as well for the chat.
It just reminded me when you're speaking about like each individual moment that we're going through has some type of importance or relevance. I always think back to that. I'm like, well, of course, because I've got to come back and live through Danny Kohler's life.
Through all of it. See, this thought is pretty scary, isn't it? Because some people's lives are damn. Yeah. The Egg short film by awesome. Check it out. Absolutely. All right, guys. Gotta have to take the puppies. Love you all. Thank you so much. This is incredible. This chat is growing and it's incredible and it's amazing. Let's build a spaceship. And let's go to other planets and other galaxies. I will see you tomorrow, and I'll try and set everything up on X by tomorrow. I don't know. I didn't think of that. They have a lot of these conversations. Eventually, let's put a target. Within a year, we have Elon on our chat. You with me?
I'm on it.
Let's do it. See you guys. Love you all. Good night.
See ya.
Great talk, Jack. Azza, Danny, you're a blessing. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night. See you tomorrow.